What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? We got episode, what is it, like 27 or something like that of the Greyt podcast. Now, I should probably keep track of that, but it's okay. And we got week 12 coming up tomorrow. And so we're going to have my game picks for what I believe to be the top 10 games of the weekend. And honestly, that might not even be the main juicy part of this episode because the main juicy part of this episode is me going catatonic on the college football playoff committee for the crimes that they committed on Tuesday night. But we'll save that for last, and we will first get into the picks. So let's start here with Texas versus Arkansas. So, to me, this is an easy Texas pick here. Texas continues their trend of not playing anybody of substance other than Georgia, who they lost to, by the way, but we'll get to that later. And I think they're going to handle Arkansas. Arkansas has been a feisty team. They definitely have rebounded from their awful season last year, but I don't think it's going to be nearly enough to get the upset against Texas. But Arkansas is not a team that you should just look past. Utah at Colorado. If this was Cam Rising Utah, the Utah that we all expected at the beginning of the season, then I would say they have a chance. But given everything that's gone on with Utah, I'm going to pick Colorado to win this game at home and continue their really good season. Clemson at Pitt. Look, Pitt is no easy task. They were undefeated. I saw their first loss coming to SMU from a mile away, but I think this Clemson team is too talented and too good to lose to Pitt, and I think they're going to handle their business against the Panthers. LSU, Florida. Again, if Florida had DJ Lagway, maybe I'd look at this game slightly differently, but they don't. They're very injured, very beat up. And you got to think LSU is going to hopefully come out with some sort of fire for this game and actually beat the brakes off of Florida. You would think. You really would. Virginia at Notre Dame. Look, Virginia's nothing to sneeze at either, but I think Notre Dame's at a point where their schedule's not that difficult, and they're a good football team, and I think they're going to be able to handle Virginia just fine, especially with it being at home. Nebraska at USC is an interesting one. I'm going to go USC. Nebraska's got to they don't got to travel as far as some other Big Ten teams because Nebraska is basically in the middle of the country. But I do see USC winning this, being at home. Lincoln Riley needs the win desperately. And so I think USC is going to pull out the dub on this one. Raiola has kind of come back down to earth in a bad way, but we'll see. Missouri at South Carolina. Missouri, another beat up football team, especially at the quarterback position. South Carolina's been surprisingly good this season, and we've seen how good they can play when the game is at South Carolina at home for them. So give me the Gamecocks to get a pretty, I think, might be an easy win against Missouri, a disappointing Missouri team. Oregon at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's been up and down. There's been they've played surprisingly well at times and surprisingly bad at times, um, but they're just not good enough to beat Oregon. Oregon's the number one team in the country. It's one of the few things the playoff committee got right on Tuesday night, and I think Oregon's just going to continue to roll. Kansas at BYU. This is one of those games where, could I see Kansas maybe finally showing what they haven't shown all season that we all expected from them before the season? Maybe, but I doubt it, especially with it being late at night at BYU. That's when BYU is at their best. So give me BYU to continue their undefeated streak and to get to 10-0. I think, right? 10-0 or 11-0. It doesn't matter. Okay, and I saved this one for last. Tennessee at Georgia. It's the game of the week. Top 10 match. Well, should be a top 10 matchup, but we'll get to that. It's technically a top 12 matchup. Um, Here's my thing. Whether Nico plays or not, I see this going the exact same way, whether he plays or not. I think Georgia's going to handle Tennessee on Saturday. It's their first game at home in a month, as I said on Tuesday. And I think Georgia's going to come out pissed off, ready to beat the crap out of somebody. And I think, unfortunately for the Volunteers, they're going to be the victims of that. That's what I believe. And look, I'm a Georgia fan. We know this. If Georgia comes out on Saturday and A, loses, or B, is losing at halftime, scraped by with a win, I'm probably going to be pretty upset still. Because at what point are we as fans allowed to just ask from this Georgia team, can we see a complete football game? Ever? Can we ever see a complete football game from this Georgia team? It's a very simple question. It's a simple ask. And they have failed tremendously every single week to give us a complete football game. I mean, because think about it. When did we see a complete football game from this Georgia team? Against Texas? Don't make me laugh. The offense got saved by the defense. The Clemson game, Georgia had 6 points at halftime. Don't tell me that was a complete game. Okay, and I don't count whatever cupcake we played. It was Tennessee Tech or something like that. And I won't count it against UMass either next week. I need to see a complete performance. I think Georgia wins. I think they win by at least 2 touchdowns. That's what I believe. But this offense has got to come out and do something. I'm tired of Carson Beck looking like Sid the Sloth from Ice Age, sitting on the sidelines looking at the little iPad, and he's smiling over there with Jaden Rashada while we're getting whooped offensively and defensively. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And I'm going to tell you something else. If I don't start to see better decision making and better results offensively, I want the entire coaching staff gone. And I have a belief, I said this on Tuesday, that Carson will return next season to play quarterback. It better not be for this team. It better not be for Georgia. We better tell him, Carson, we appreciate the 2 years that we had with you, but you will not be the starting quarterback for this football team next season. I better see Jaden Rashada or Gunnar Stockton or some whatever transfer. If we want to bring in Thomas Castellanos from Boston College, I don't care. I better not see Carson Beck taking snaps as the starting quarterback for Georgia next season. Even though, and I said this on Tuesday, I do not believe it is all his fault. I don't believe that. But the fact is that he has not helped. He certainly hasn't helped. And it's a fact that he has not been good this season. Okay? And Carson's not the only one that I want gone. It's the offensive coaching staff that I want gone. The offensive line coach needs to be gone. Wide receiver coach needs to be gone. We need new wide receivers. Also, we need to tell some of these kids who keep dropping the ball, yeah, hit the road, Jack. Secondary, need new guys. Ellis Robinson better start next year. That's all I'm saying about that. Because Malachi's about to be gone. Although Malachi's had a little bit of a disappointing season, in my opinion. His eyes have been in the backfield way too much, and it has caused busted coverage after busted coverage over the top of his head. But as you can see, I'm trying to control my emotions. But I'm going to pick Georgia, as I've already have stated. But let's get to what we're really here for. Let's get to what we're really here to talk about. So let's look at this college football playoff ranking, huh? Oh boy. So Oregon's at 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, Indiana 5, BYU 6, Tennessee 7, Notre Dame 8, Miami 9, Alabama at 10, Ole Miss at 11, Georgia 12, Boise State 13, SMU 14. That's probably about as far as I'll go there. So, you've heard a lot of media members who are very upset about what the committee gave us on Tuesday night for good reason. And I might be more upset than all of them. And it's not just because of Georgia. It's not just because of my team. It's for a multitude of reasons. I'm even upset. I hate Tennessee and I hate their fans. But I think they got screwed in this as well. Why is Texas and Penn State's 8-1 so much better than Tennessee's 8-1? Can the committee explain that to me? Tennessee has beaten Alabama. Texas has no ranked wins. Penn State has no ranked wins. Why is Ohio State's 8-1 better than Tennessee's 8-1? Tennessee beat Alabama. Penn State has beaten what? Illinois? Congratulations. Texas has beaten what? Vanderbilt? Yeah, it's a little more impressive, but Vanderbilt's not ranked. Illinois is not ranked. At least I don't think Illinois is ranked. No, they aren't. Illinois, not ranked. Vanderbilt, not ranked. What have they done that's so much more impressive than Tennessee to where Penn State and Texas get to be ahead of undefeated Indiana and undefeated BYU, but not Tennessee? I just need that just explained to me real quick in a way that I can understand. And you're going to sit here and you're going to tell me, and let's move on to further down the list. Let's move on to Georgia. Last week, you had Georgia ranked ahead of Miami. Georgia was 3, Miami was 4. So you told us that it doesn't matter that Georgia has 1 loss and Miami's undefeated. We're going to have Georgia ranked ahead of Miami. Okay. But now, even though they both lost, and Miami's loss was to an unranked Georgia Tech team, how is it that now they're 3 spots ahead of Georgia? How does that work? And I understand why you did it. You did it because if you just look at it, you can tell why they did it. They didn't want to drop Miami to 12, which is where Miami should be, by the way. You didn't want to drop Miami to 12 because you didn't want to put Miami behind those 3 2-loss teams right there, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia. And look, Alabama and Ole Miss have to be ahead of Georgia. Are their schedules as hard as Georgia's? No. Are their losses worse than Georgia's? Yes. Alabama has a loss to Vanderbilt. Ole Miss has a loss to LSU and Kentucky. But you have to give credit to head-to-head wins. So I'm okay. I understand sorry. Alabama and Ole Miss being ahead of Georgia. I would have done the same thing. But Miami and Notre Dame should not be ahead of Alabama, Ole Miss, or Georgia. Notre Dame has a loss at home to Northern Illinois. And they have a bunch of who cares wins. A bunch of nonsense. Ohio State has 1 ranked win to a Penn State team who shouldn't be ranked at 4 because Penn State's played nobody and Penn State is massively overrated. And I keep seeing people on Twitter who are like, well, of course Georgia's 12. They got destroyed by Alabama and Ole Miss and almost lost to Kentucky. Ohio State almost lost to Nebraska. Like, why are we having selective memory here? Ohio State has 1 good win, and I hesitate to even call it a good win because Ryan Day beat the only coach who's worse at winning big games than him in James Franklin. And I understand that if Georgia beats Tennessee, they'll be in the playoff and it'll be fine. As long as Georgia wins out, they'll be in. I get that. But the committee is slowly but surely putting themselves in a very bad position here. Very bad position. Because now, if Georgia beats Tennessee, what's the ranking? You would still have Oregon State. You still have Oregon at 1, Ohio State 2, Texas for some reason at 3, Penn State for some reason at 4. What? Indiana still at 5, BYU still at 6. And then who's 7? Do you just move everyone up one and Tennessee moves back to 12 after just losing to the 12th best team? So you move what, Notre Dame up to 7, Miami up to 8, Alabama to 9, Ole Miss to 10, and Georgia to 11, and then Tennessee is now with 2 losses on the outside looking in. And yes, one of their losses is to unranked Arkansas. That's not good. And they have no one but to blame for themselves on that one. But their other loss is to Georgia and and this is a bigger point. You can't have Tennessee at 8-2 ahead of Georgia, who would be 8-2, because Georgia has the head-to-head. But you have to have Alabama over Georgia because they have the head-to-head. But Tennessee has the head-to-head over Alabama because they beat Alabama. So how does that work exactly? Just curious. How does that work? How do you and then where does Ole Miss go? Ole Miss beat Georgia head-to-head. So who do you put ahead of who? I think you have to honor Georgia just beating Tennessee. Okay. But then do you still have Alabama ahead of them? I think what they would end up doing is having it go Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, but that screws over Tennessee because Tennessee's going to be sitting there looking at the ranking like we beat Alabama head to head. How are we behind them? We have the same record. Do you get what I'm saying, though? And I understand that that is a difficult scenario. I understand that. The committee cannot help that those 3 teams did a little jumbled mess of who beat who. I understand that. Personally, I wouldn't want to be in that situation, but they have put themselves also in this situation with this terrible ranking. Notre Dame is not the 8th best team in the country. They have a loss at home to Northern Illinois. Did we all forget? Who's their most impressive win? Texas A&M? I mean, do you want a cookie? Texas A&M is 15th. You know who Georgia's best win is? Against the 3rd best team in the country. Why is Texas get to be ranked ahead? Here's a question. Because it's blatant to me that the committee is logo watching. Why do I say that? At least Ohio State's one loss is to Oregon, who is above them, right? And Oregon's undefeated, so that it makes that easy. Texas is one loss, let's go to Penn State. Penn State's at 4. Their one loss is to a team that's above them, who's the same record in Ohio State. However, Texas, their one loss is to Georgia, who's all the way back at 12. So why does Texas get the benefit of the doubt of being ahead of Georgia when Texas has no impressive wins, no ranked wins, and their one good game, their one ranked opponent, they got destroyed at home? So, furthermore, why isn't SMU then? Why is SMU all the way down at 14 if Texas gets to be all the way up at 3? SMU's one loss is to number 6 BYU. So why does SMU not get the benefit of the doubt? Why does SMU have to be all the way down at 14 while Texas gets to chill at 3? It's because of their logo. It's because of their logo. And it's an absolute sham. SMU, they did have a ranked win when Pitt was undefeated and it was ranked. Does SMU, hold on, I don't remember SMU schedule. Let me just look up SMU schedule. Let's see if SMU has a ranked win real quick. Because I know they finished not SMU, Pitt's undefeated streak. They beat Louisville. Louisville's ranked at 19. Anyone else? Did they beat anyone else ranked? Let's see. No. And they don't play anyone. They don't play Boston College. They play Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. None of those people are ranked. So, just to make it even worse, SMU and Texas are both 8-1. Texas has 0 ranked wins, and their only loss, they got destroyed and lost by 15 at home to Georgia, who's ranked at 12. SMU also 8-1 with a ranked win against number 19 Louisville, with their only loss being a close loss against number 6 undefeated BYU. So explain to me how BYU is at 14 and Texas is at 3. And the same goes for Penn State. Why is Penn State at 4, but SMU is at 14? Furthermore, hold on, let me look up 2 other schedules real quick just to make sure, because I'm pretty sure I have this right. I just want to make sure. Real quick, let's see. Notre Dame, who's also 8-1, just like SMU, has 1 ranked win, just like them, against Texas A&M. And their 1 loss came at home to Northern Illinois, who hasn't even won enough games to be bowl eligible yet. Let's look at Miami. I have to always remember, I have to put Miami Hurricanes or else it'll bring up the Dolphins, like anyone cares. Let's see. Miami is 8-1, just like SMU. They have 1 ranked win, which is against the same team as SMU. They beat Louisville as well, just like SMU did. But their 1 loss is to an unranked Georgia Tech team. So can anyone explain to me why Texas gets to be at 3, Penn State gets to be at 4, Notre Dame gets to be at 8, Miami gets to be at 9, but SMU has to be at 14? Can anyone explain that one to me? Can anyone explain that to me? And you can't say, oh, but their schedules are harder. They're not harder. Miami and SMU are in the same conference. They're playing around the same people. The ACC is trash. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What is the point of Georgia scheduling hard out of conference opponents like Clemson? What is the point of anyone scheduling hard out of conference games when you are going to punish them, but you're going to reward the teams like Ohio State, like Texas, who played absolutely nobody in the out of conference? Ohio State started their season with Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall. Spoiler alert here. If Georgia had Ohio State's schedule, they'd be 8-1 minimum as well. Crazy concept, isn't it? When Georgia gets to face the likes of Purdue and Northwestern, Penn State with James Franklin, who can't win a big game. Crazy concept. Yeah, maybe Georgia would have lost to Oregon, just like them. Traveling to Eugene would be very difficult. Georgia would be 8-1 if they had Ohio State's schedule. Period. Georgia would be undefeated if they had Texas's schedule because Texas's only loss was to Georgia. Can't beat yourself. Well, actually, Georgia does find ways to do that. Anyways, that's besides the point. If Georgia had Penn State's schedule, they'd be minimum 8-1. If Georgia had Notre Dame's schedule, they'd be undefeated. If they had Miami's schedule, they'd be undefeated. If they had SMU's schedule, they'd be undefeated. If they had BYU's schedule, they'd be undefeated just like them. If Georgia was in the Big 12, they'd go undefeated for 7 regular seasons straight minimum. Like, what are we doing? That's why I tweeted out. I said, Georgia in the future, they should take all of their future non-conference good opponents, I don't care who it is, and you should take them off and replace them with Akron. We get an out-of-conference game every season anyways with Georgia Tech. So if you have anything else other than Georgia Tech on the schedule, take it off right now for the foreseeable future and replace them with Akron or Ball State or Toledo or Northern Illinois or Marshall. Actually, I think we play Marshall next year. Or Ball State or Kent State. I don't care. The school for the deaf and blind. I don't care. Some intramural school from I don't know, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I don't care. Because it's pointless to play hard out of conference games anymore because all the committee is going to do is punish you for having a hard schedule. It's absurd and it's ridiculous. And Paul Feinbaum put it best. It is an absolute travesty what the committee did on Tuesday night. They should be ashamed of themselves. But Georgia still has their whole future in front of them. They control their own destiny. Because I promise you this, if Georgia wins out, beats Tennessee, beats UMass, beats Georgia Tech, yeah, we won't make the SEC, we won't make the conference championship game. So what? Who cares these days if you make the conference championship game? Fine. We get a free bye week. Bummer. We'll give us the free bye week. I'm fine with that. So what? We got to go on the road in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs. That's what matters. But if Georgia wins out and doesn't get in the 12-team playoff, I will go cataclysmic, catatonic, nuclear, whatever you want to say to define it. That's what's going to happen. My brain explosion. And I think you'll see it across the national media as well. And I'm no fan of the national media. Paul Feinbaum says a lot of things I disagree with, but he was right on the money yesterday morning after those rankings came out. He was right on the money. But that's all I have to say. That was a long rant. That was a lot. I know. But that's all I have to say. Justice for Georgia, justice for Tennessee, justice for SMU. They should be ashamed. What they did Tuesday night should be a felony. I hope y'all enjoy this weekend's slate of college football. I bet you the committee is on their hands and knees praying that Tennessee beats Georgia because it makes their job a whole lot easier. But because of that, I want Georgia to win I'm a fan, obviously, so I want them to win really bad. It makes me want them to win 10 times more to see the committee scramble to have to figure this out because someone's going to be pissed. Someone is getting screwed, plain and simple. And I have a bad feeling it's going to be either Georgia or Tennessee or SMU. In that case, two of them would be screwed, but you get my point. But that's all I have to say. I hope everyone has a great day on beautiful Friday. Enjoy the college football slate this weekend.